The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakes. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views, which others find inadmissible. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. The pendulum of the mind oscillates between sense and nonsense, not between right and wrong. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. As a child, I felt myself to be alone, and I am still, because I know things, and must hint at things, which others apparently know nothing of, and for the most part do not want to know. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth, and if a man does not know what a thing is, it is at least an increase in knowledge, if he knows what it is not. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light of meaning in the darkness of mere being. Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as an event. Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling. Thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side also, if I am to be whole. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves. But deep down below the surface and the average conscience is still, a small voice says to us, something is out of tune. There are as many nights as days, and the one is just as long as the other in the year's course. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning, if it were not balanced by sadness. Shame is a soul-eating emotion. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves. To find out what is truly individual in ourselves, profound reflection is needed, and suddenly, we realize how uncommonly difficult the discovery of individuality is. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. What you resist, persists. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego, the second half is going inward, and letting go of it. About a third of my cases are suffering from no clinically definable neurosis, but from the senselessness and emptiness of their lives. This can be defined as a general neurosis of our times. Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it, and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. Night through dreams tell the myths forgotten by the day. It is often tragic to see how blatantly a man bungles his own life, and the lives of others, yet remains totally incapable of seeing how much the whole tragedy originates in himself, and how he continually feeds it, and keeps it going. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. We should not pretend to understand the world only by the intellect. We apprehend it just as much by feeling. Therefore, the judgment of the intellect is, at best, only the half of truth, and must, if it be honest, also come to an understanding of its inadequacy. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. I must also have a dark side, if I am to be whole. It all depends on how we look at things, and not on how things are in themselves. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Deep down, below the surface in the average man's conscience, he hears a voice whispering, there is something not right, no matter how much his rightness is supported by public opinion, or moral code. There can be no transforming of darkness, inner light, and of apathy, into movement without emotion. Who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakes. Art is a kind of innate drive that seizes a human being, and makes him its instrument. To perform this difficult office, it is sometimes necessary for him to sacrifice happiness, and everything that makes life worth living, for the ordinary human being. We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. Words are animals, alive with a will of their own. Sometimes you have to do something unforgivable, just to be able to go on living. Find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will develop next. Every mother contains her daughter in herself, and every daughter her mother, and every mother extends backwards into her mother, and forwards into her daughter. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside his fate. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of the imagination is incalculable. Midlife is a time to let go of an over-dominant ego, and to contemplate the deeper significance of human existence. The bigger the crowd, the more negligible the individual becomes. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. My whole being was seeking for something still unknown, which might confer meaning upon the banality of life. The true leader is always led. In each of us there is another, whom we do not know. Nobody, as long as he moves among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. If the path before you is clear, you're probably on someone else's. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year, and of the season in which we are born.